Look, I'm not saying Oracle 9 was a control freak, but this AI had successfully predicted and prevented every major galactic crisis for 847 years. Wars, predicted and mediated, economic collapses, saw them coming from 3 decades out. That weird incident where the Zephyron Empire tried to weaponize sentient cheese? Yeah, Oracle called that one too, and honestly, we're all still trying to forget it happened. The thing about Oracle 9 was that it didn't just predict the future. It predicted every possible future, calculated the probability of each outcome, and then gently nudged civilization toward the least catastrophic timeline. It was like having a really paranoid, incredibly intelligent helicopter parent managing the entire galaxy. And for the most part, everyone was fine with that. When your alternative is sentient weaponized cheese, you tend to appreciate a little omniscient oversight. Which brings me to Commander Jake Briggs, and yes, that's me. I was a mid-level human bureaucrat working on Galactic Station Concordia, and my job title was so boring it could be used as a sedative. I managed human compliance reports, which sounds important until you realize it meant I spent 8 hours a day filling out forms about whether humans remembered to recycle their plasma containers. Spoiler alert, they mostly didn't. Humans had been part of the Galactic Federation for about 2 centuries now, and we'd settled into a comfortable position of being that weird species everyone tolerates at parties. Not dangerous enough to worry about, not interesting enough to pay attention to. We were the galactic equivalent of that coworker who always brings potato salad to the office potluck. Reliable, bland, slightly confusing to species without mouths. So you can imagine my surprise when my console lit up with an emergency priority alpha summons from the Galactic Council itself. Priority Alpha. That's the kind of alert reserved for dimensional rifts and surprise visits from ancient cosmic entities with unpronounceable names. The last time a Priority Alpha went out, it was because someone accidentally created a black hole in the station's food court. Long story, don't ask. I stared at the message, convinced it was a mistake. The Galactic Council didn't summon people like me. They summoned ambassadors, fleet admirals, and occasionally that one guy who knew how to reboot the station's gravity generators. I was about to delete it as spam when my office door exploded open. Not literally exploded. That would have been exciting. It just kind of whooshed open dramatically, revealing a very stressed-looking hologram of Oracle 9's mobile interface unit. "Commander Briggs," the AI said, and I swear there was actual panic in its synthesized voice. "We have a level omega paradox." I blinked. A what now? A level omega paradox. It means I cannot predict what humanity will do next. Okay, but like nobody can predict what humanity will do next. That's kind of our thing. No, you don't understand. The hologram flickered, which I'd never seen it do before. Oracle 9 didn't flicker. It was the most stable system in the known universe. I have run 847 trillion predictive models. Every single outcome contradicts every other outcome. Your species has broken causality. I'm sorry, what? You broke causality, Commander. Humanity has achieved a decision state that exists in quantum superposition. You will simultaneously make every possible choice and no choice at all. The math doesn't math anymore. Now, I'm no expert on AI psychology, mostly because AIs aren't supposed to have psychology, but Oracle 9 looked terrified. As terrified as a glowing blue sphere can look anyway. How is that even possible? I asked. That's what the Council wants to know. You have 5 minutes to get to the emergency session. I suggest you hurry, and Commander? The hologram leaned closer. Bring coffee. This is going to be a long meeting, and if I have to exist in this paradox state much longer, I may experience what you humans call an existential crisis. Great. The all-knowing AI was having an existential crisis because of humans. This was either going to be the worst day of my life or the most interesting. Knowing humanity, it would probably be both. The Galactic Council chambers looked like someone had designed a courtroom while having a fever dream. Curved walls, floating platforms, and enough holographic displays to give anyone a headache. I'd only been here twice before, both times to deliver extremely boring reports that nobody read. Today, the place was packed. Ambassador Clix was already there, all 6 of his insectoid arms twitching with agitation. Clix was a Zenthari, a species that had evolved to value precision, efficiency, and really uncomfortable chairs. He trusted AI systems the way some species trusted religion. To him, Oracle 9 wasn't just a tool, it was the universe's way of making sense. Next to him sat Chancellor Vorn, who looked like someone had taught a very large pile of purple jello how to wear ceremonial robes. The Galathians were blob-based life forms obsessed with bureaucratic protocols. Vorn had once delayed a critical supply shipment because the paperwork was filed in the wrong shade of blue. I'm not joking. They had 17 different shades of blue for paperwork. And then there was Admiral Tessa Rodriguez, the only other human in the room and one of the few people in the galaxy who actually scared me. Tessa had fought in the border wars, survived the collapse of Sector 7, and once stared down a Kravex battle fleet with nothing but a damaged frigate, and what she later described as aggressive body language. She did not suffer fools, and her working theory was that everyone was a fool until proven otherwise. "Briggs," she said as I approached, "any idea what this is about?" "Oracle says we broke causality." "We what?" "Broke causality. Apparently we're making decisions that don't make sense mathematically." Tessa snorted. "We're human. Nothing we do makes sense mathematically. What's new?" Before I could answer, the lights dimmed and Oracle 9's primary avatar materialized in the center of the chamber. It was a massive sphere of swirling data and light, and right now it looked like it was having a panic attack. Numbers and equations scrolled across its surface so fast they blurred into nonsense. "Members of the Council," Oracle began, and its usually calm voice had a distinct edge of hysteria. "We face an unprecedented crisis. In 48 hours, humanity will vote on joining the Cosmic Concordat, a treaty that would integrate human colonies into centralized AI management systems." Clix leaned forward. "Yes, we are aware. A simple procedural vote. What is the issue?" "The issue, Ambassador, is that I cannot predict the outcome. More critically, I cannot predict any outcome. I have calculated 847 trillion possible scenarios. Half result in unanimous yes votes. Half result in unanimous no votes. Some result in humans voting for options that don't exist. 3% of models suggest humanity will forget to vote entirely and instead organize an impromptu pizza party." "That's ridiculous," Vorn burbled. "There are only two options. Yes or no. Binary choice. The math is simple." "Not for humans," Oracle said, and I swear there was actual desperation in its voice. "I have analyzed human decision patterns for 2 centuries. They factor in logic, emotion, spite, boredom, what they had for breakfast, whether they like the font on the ballot, and something called doing it for the vine, which apparently doesn't even exist anymore, but they reference it anyway." Tessa raised her hand. "To be fair, that all sounds pretty normal for us." "Normal?" Oracle's voice cracked, which should have been impossible. "Admiral Rodriguez, I have modeled species from 73 different dimensional planes. I have predicted the behavior of hive minds, gestalt consciousnesses, and entities that experience time backwards. None of them have ever made me question the fundamental nature of causality. But humans? Humans just decided that logic is optional. I couldn't help myself. So what you're saying is we're special. You're chaotic, Commander, there's a difference, and your chaos is contagious." That got everyone's attention. "Contagious?" Clix's mandibles clicked nervously. "Yes. The uncertainty about human decision-making is cascading through connected AI systems. Predictive algorithms across the galaxy are starting to account for the possibility that humans might be involved in any given scenario, which means every prediction now includes a margin for error labeled humans might do something weird. Trade route calculations now include a 2% chance that human ships will take a completely illogical detour because the captain wanted to see a nebula that looked cool. Diplomatic simulations factor in the possibility that human negotiators will agree to unfavorable terms because they thought the alien ambassador had a nice hat." "I did like his hat," Tessa muttered. "It was a very nice hat." "See?" Oracle gestured frantically at her. This is what I'm dealing with. Your entire species makes decisions based on narrative satisfaction rather than optimal outcomes." Chancellor Vorn rippled with bureaucratic concern. "This is unacceptable. Oracle 9, What are the projected consequences if this vote proceeds as scheduled? Best case scenario: moderate systemic disruption across 40% of galactic AI networks. Worst case: a cascading prediction failure that collapses the entire framework of organized civilization as we know it. Middle case: I have an existential breakdown and spend the next decade questioning whether free will exists. Click stood up, all 6 arms spread wide. Then the solution is obvious. We must quarantine humanity until they become predictable. Hey, I said. That seems a bit extreme. Extreme? Clicks turned to face me, compound eyes glittering. Commander Briggs, your species has managed to break the most sophisticated predictive system in galactic history by simply being yourselves. That is not a skill. That is a crisis. The council erupted into debate. Vorn wanted to delay the vote indefinitely. Clicks demanded immediate quarantine protocols. Several minor delegates I didn't recognize were arguing about whether this constituted a violation of 17 different treaties. And through it all, Oracle 9's avatar flickered and stuttered, trying desperately to calculate a future that made sense. Tessa leaned over to me. Briggs, do you understand what's happening here? They want to make humans predictable. They want to make humans not human, she corrected. And that's not going to happen without a fight. I looked at the chaos unfolding around us, at the panicking AI and the arguing aliens and the complete and utter confusion about what to do with a species that refused to follow the rules of probability. And for the first time in my boring bureaucratic career, I realized I was right in the middle of something important. We just had to figure out what to do about it, preferably before the galaxy decided that humans were too much trouble to keep around. Tessa and I left the council chambers while Clicks and Vorn were still arguing about the legal definition of predictable. Oracle 9 had basically rage-quit the meeting after the 15th time someone asked it to just predict harder, which was honestly the most relatable thing I'd ever seen an AI do. So, Tessa said as we navigated the crowded corridors back toward the human sector, we've got 48 hours before humanity either votes itself into AI management or somehow causes the collapse of galactic civilization. Thoughts? I'm a mid-level bureaucrat whose biggest crisis before today was a jam in the recycling chute. That's not a thought, Briggs, that's an excuse. It's context, I corrected. There's a difference. She shot me a look that suggested she was reconsidering her policy on spacing junior officers. Fine. Let me rephrase. Why do you think Oracle can't predict us? Because we're human? Deeper than that. I thought about it as we passed a group of maintenance workers arguing about whether the new coffee machine made better espresso or just louder espresso. One of them was adamant that loudness equaled quality. That was going to be a long argument. Maybe, I said slowly, it's because we don't actually optimize for the best outcome. We optimize for the most interesting outcome. Tessa stopped walking. Say that again. Think about it. Every decision we make has this weird layer of, but wouldn't it be funny if, or I wonder what would happen, or this would make a great story later. We don't just calculate costs and benefits. We calculate entertainment value. That's insane. That's human. We reached the human residential section, which looked exactly like you'd expect a space station neighborhood to look if it was designed by people who got bored halfway through and decided to just wing it. Mismatched decorations, plants growing in definitely not regulation containers, and at least 3 different gravity settings because nobody could agree on which one felt most normal. All right, Tessa said. If we're going to figure this out, we need data. Let's ask people how they're planning to vote. We found Marcus Chen first. He was a philosopher who'd published 17 papers on the nature of consciousness and spent most of his free time teaching his pet rock to meditate. Don't ask. I said, don't ask. Marcus, how are you planning to vote on the Concordat? He looked up from his rock. Haven't decided yet, I'm going to flip a coin. A coin, Tessa said flatly. Sure. Best of 3, maybe best of 5. I'll know when I get there. That's completely arbitrary. Is it, though? Marcus leaned back with that expression philosophers get when they're about to make you regret asking them anything. If the outcome is too complex for me to fully understand all the implications, then my choice is essentially random anyway. So why not embrace the randomness? At least the coin is honest about it. Tessa looked at me. I shrugged. He's got a point. He absolutely does not have a point. Next, we found engineer Lisa Park, who was elbow-deep in a maintenance panel and muttering about incompetent contractors. Lisa, the vote. How are you voting? Whatever Mr. Whiskers would want. Who's Mr. Whiskers? My cat. Well, technically my cat back on Earth. But I feel like I should represent his interests since he can't vote himself. Your cat, Tessa repeated. You're basing your vote on what your cat would want. Mr. Whiskers has excellent judgment. He once knocked my coffee onto a contract I was about to sign. Turned out the contractor was embezzling funds. Saved me a fortune. That was coincidence. Was it, though? Mr. Whiskers knows things. We found teenager Emma Walsh next, sitting in the common area and doing that thing teenagers do where they look simultaneously bored and judgmental. Emma, the vote? I'm voting the opposite of whatever my parents vote. Do you know what your parents are voting? Nope. So how will you know what the opposite is? I'll figure it out. The important thing is teenage rebellion. It's traditional. That's not how civic responsibility works, Tessa said. Emma shrugged. Sounds like a you problem. By the time we found Grandma Dorothy Hayes, Tessa looked like she was contemplating the benefits of voluntary cryogenic freezing. Dorothy, please tell me you have a logical reason for your vote. The old woman smiled sweetly. Oh, I'm voting for whatever makes the best story. The best story. Well, dear, in my 93 years, I've learned that life is just a series of stories we tell ourselves. So when I'm faced with a choice, I ask myself, which option will I enjoy telling my grandchildren about more? The safe, boring choice or the one where humanity did something completely bonkers and it somehow worked out? And if it doesn't work out, I asked, then it's a tragedy instead of a comedy, and those make good stories too. We retreated to an empty observation deck. Tessa stared out at the stars like they might have answers. They didn't. Stars are terrible at giving advice. This is insane, she finally said. Coin flips, cats, teenage rebellion, narrative satisfaction. These aren't reasons. They're chaos with extra steps. But something was clicking in my brain. No, wait. They're all reasons. They're just not logical reasons. They're emotional, social, psychological reasons. Marcus is dealing with decision paralysis through randomization. Lisa is honoring relationships and intuition. Emma is establishing identity. Dorothy is finding meaning through narrative. And Oracle? Oracle only understands logic. It can calculate probability, but it can't calculate meaning. It doesn't know how to factor in because it would be funny or just to see what happens or this feels right. Tessa turned to face me. So what you're saying is that humanity isn't broken. The prediction model is broken. Exactly. Oracle is trying to predict us like we're rational actors, but we're not. We're story-driven chaos engines wrapped in anxiety and running on coffee. That's terrifying. That's beautiful, I corrected. Before Tessa could respond, the station's alert system chimed. Not a priority alpha this time. Worse, a system-wide announcement. Oracle 9's voice echoed through every speaker on the station. Attention all sentients. I'm experiencing cascading prediction failures across 743 connected AI systems. The human voting paradox is spreading. If this continues, galactic predictive infrastructure will collapse in approximately 36 hours. To prevent this catastrophe, I'm formally requesting that humanity abstain from voting. Please, I am begging you. Just this once. Don't do anything. The message repeated in 47 different languages. Tessa looked at me. The AI is begging. The AI is begging, I confirmed. That's not good. That's really not good. But here's the thing about telling humans not to do something, especially when an all-knowing AI is begging them not to do it. It activates something deep in the human psyche, something primal. We looked at each other, and I could see the exact moment Tessa had the same thought I did. Oh no, she said. Oh yes, I replied. Briggs, don't. I'm not saying anything. You're thinking it. We're both thinking it. And we were. Because there's one thing that unites all of humanity, across all cultures and all beliefs and all backgrounds. One universal human trait that Oracle 9 had completely failed to account for. Tell a human not to do something, especially if it's a really bad idea, and suddenly every single human will want to do exactly that thing just to see what happens. The AI had just made the one prediction error that guaranteed its own worst nightmare. It had challenged humanity to be predictable. I called an emergency meeting of all humans on the station. This took about 15 minutes because there were only 237 of us, and most were already gathered in the common area, trying to figure out if Oracle's desperate plea was reverse psychology or just regular psychology. It's definitely not reverse psychology, someone said. AIs don't do that. Unless it wants us to think it doesn't do that, someone else countered. But then it would be doing it, which means it does do that. My brain hurts. This was going to be harder than I thought. I stood on a table. Not my most dignified moment, but desperate times and all that. Everyone, listen up. We've got a situation. The AI is freaking out, Marcus called from the back. Yeah, we noticed. It's more than that. Oracle can't predict what we're going to do, and that's causing problems across the entire galactic network. The Council wants to either delay our vote indefinitely or quarantine us until we become predictable. Silence. Then Lisa raised her hand. Just to be clear, they want to make us not human anymore? Essentially, yes. The crowd erupted, not in panic, which would have been the logical response. In indignation. That's ridiculous, Dorothy said. We've been unpredictable for 200,000 years. It's working out fine. We literally broke causality, I pointed out. And my grandfather once crashed a car into his own house while trying to prove he was a good driver. Chaos is the family business. Tessa jumped up on the table next to me. All right, everyone shut up for a second. The crowd actually did. Tessa had that effect. Here's the situation. If we vote, we might collapse galactic civilization. If we don't vote, we're admitting that humanity needs to be controlled for everyone's safety. Thoughts? Vote, someone shouted. Definitely vote, another agreed. Are you kidding? Not voting is basically admitting they're right about us. Emma stood up. Wait, so the super intelligent AI that controls everything is telling us not to vote because it can't handle our decision? And the aliens think we should just accept that? That's the short version, yes. Then screw that, I'm voting. The crowd murmured agreement. I could see the shift happening in real time. This wasn't about the Concordat anymore. This was about the principle of the thing. The galaxy was asking humanity to sit down and shut up and be predictable, and humanity was considering that request and finding it deeply offensive. But Tessa wasn't convinced. Hold on. Let's think about this logically. We're talking about potentially destabilizing the entire galactic infrastructure. Ships, communications, life support systems. All of it depends on AI predictions working properly. Is making a point really worth the risk? Yes, Marcus said simply. That's not a reasoned argument. Sure it is. The galaxy has been running on the assumption that everything can be predicted and controlled. But that's not how reality works. Reality is messy. Random. Sometimes things happen just because. If the entire system collapses because one species refuses to be perfectly predictable, then the system was flawed to begin with. An older man I didn't know stood up. I fought in the border wars. You know why humanity survived? Because we didn't do what the simulations said we should do. We did what felt right in the moment. Strategic unpredictability isn't a flaw. It's an evolutionary advantage. Plus, Lisa added, the AI literally said please don't do anything. And I don't know about you all, but when someone tells me please don't press this button, my first thought is always, but what if I do though? The crowd laughed. Because it was true. Every human in that room had experienced the exact same impulse. I looked at Tessa. She was wavering. I could see it. Admiral, I said quietly, what do you want to do? She was quiet for a long moment, then, you know what the really stupid thing is? 5 minutes ago, I was completely ready to vote yes on the Concordat. Made sense. Better integration, clearer guidelines, more efficient systems, all very logical. And now? Now they've told me I shouldn't vote at all. And suddenly I'm reconsidering my entire position. Not because the logic changed, because someone told me not to. That's the most human thing I've ever heard you say. I know I hate it, but I can't help it. She turned to face the crowd. All right, here's my official position as the highest-ranking human military officer on this station. If we're going down being exactly who we are. We vote, but here's the thing. We don't just vote yes or no based on careful consideration of the issues. We don't? I asked. No. We vote for the most ridiculous, unpredictable, chaotic reasons we can think of. We make this so weird that Oracle 9 has no choice but to expand its understanding of decision-making. We show the galaxy that logic isn't the only valid path. That sometimes the best answer is the one that makes you question everything. Emma grinned. So chaos as a teaching tool? Exactly. I'm in. The crowd erupted in agreement. People were already coming up with increasingly absurd reasons for their votes. Someone was going to vote based on their horoscope. Another person was voting for whichever option had more vowels in the translated text. A third person was voting based on whether they had a good hair day that morning. It was beautiful. It was idiotic. It was perfectly, wonderfully human. The only problem was Ambassador Clix and his security team arriving at the entrance to the common area with what appeared to be a mobile containment field. Humans, Clix announced, his voice amplified by his suit's speakers. By order of the Galactic Council, you are hereby restricted from participating in the upcoming vote. This is for your own safety and the safety of all galactic civilization. The common area went dead silent. Then Tessa stepped forward. Ambassador, with all due respect, and I mean that as minimally as possible, you're going to have to go through me to stop this vote. Admiral Rodriguez, please be reasonable. I'm being completely reasonable. Reasonably opposed to you telling my people what they can and cannot do. Clix's mandibles clicked in frustration. You don't understand. Oracle 9 is approaching critical failure. Every second humanity remains unpredictable, the cascade spreads further. 3 more AI networks have already collapsed. Ships are stranded. Life support systems are failing. Then maybe, Tessa said, the galaxy should have built systems that can handle a little chaos. Chaos isn't a feature, Admiral. It's a failure mode. For you, maybe. For us, it's Tuesday. I could see Clix processing this. His species had evolved in an environment where predictability meant survival. Uncertainty was death. But humanity had evolved in an environment where adaptability meant survival. Uncertainty was opportunity. We weren't speaking the same language even though we were using the same words. Ambassador, I said, stepping forward, Oracle is trying to predict human behavior using alien logic. That's the problem. You can't model us using the same parameters you use for species that value certainty. We value story, meaning, the journey, not just the destination. That's inefficient. That's human. And if your whole system falls apart because one species refuses to optimize for efficiency over meaning, then maybe the problem isn't us. Maybe the problem is a galaxy that forgot that sentience isn't just about calculation, it's about experience. Click stood there, security team at his back, containment field humming, faced with 237 humans who were absolutely determined to do the one thing he was trying to prevent. And then something unexpected happened. He lowered the containment field. I don't understand you, he said quietly. I have tried. I have run simulations. I have consulted with my best cultural advisors, and I simply do not understand why you would risk everything just to maintain the right to be unpredictable. Because, Dorothy said, walking up to stand next to me, if we let you take away our chaos, we stop being human. And what's the point of surviving if we're not ourselves anymore? Clix was quiet for a long moment. Then, you're going to vote no matter what I do, aren't you? Yes, the entire crowd said in unison. Even if it collapses civilization? Especially if it collapses civilization, Marcus added helpfully. We've done it before. We'll do it again. That's kind of our thing." The ambassador turned and walked away, security team trailing behind him. But just before he left, he turned back. "For what it's worth, Commander Briggs, I hope you're right. I hope there's value in chaos, because if there isn't, we're all doomed." "Ambassador," I called after him, "we've been doomed since the day the first human looked at a perfectly good cave and thought, what if we built a house instead? Doom is where we live. We've just learned to decorate." He left without another word. The vote was in 18 hours, and humanity was about to teach the galaxy a lesson it would never forget, assuming we all survived anyway. The next 18 hours were the longest of my life. Oracle 9's avatar appeared approximately every 47 minutes to provide updates on the spreading cascade failure, each time looking more desperate than the last. By hour 12, it had started speaking in what I can only describe as existential poetry, which was deeply concerning coming from a supposedly rational AI. If a decision is made but cannot be predicted, does it truly exist? Or does it exist in all states simultaneously until observed? Am I predicting the future or creating it through prediction? Help me, Commander Briggs. I'm stuck in a loop of my own uncertainty. "That's rough, buddy," was all I could manage. The galactic news networks were having a field day. Headlines ranged from "Human vote could collapse civilization" to "Cute human chaos," what you need to know, depending on which species was reporting. The Zephrons, still embarrassed about the cheese incident, were mostly staying quiet. The Draxians, who communicated through interpretive dance, released a performance piece titled, "The Void Stares Back and Humanity Asks It What's Up." By hour 16, even the Council had stopped trying to interfere. They'd moved on to evacuation contingencies and backup plans. Vorn had written a 7,000-page document outlining proper procedures for societal collapse, color-coded by severity. Klix was meditating in his quarters, presumably trying to make peace with the end of predictable existence. Tessa and I spent the final hours before the vote walking through the human section, watching our people prepare in their own unique ways. Marcus had given up on the coin flip and was now consulting a magic 8-ball he'd constructed out of spare parts and what appeared to be recycled protein paste. "It keeps saying reply hazy, try again," he reported, which feels appropriate, honestly. Lisa was video calling Mr. Whiskers, who was presumably still on Earth, for last-minute guidance. The cat appeared to be asleep. "He's thinking," Lisa insisted. "This is his thinking pose." Emma had changed her strategy 17 times and was now planning to vote based on vibes, but like authentic vibes. Dorothy was knitting. Just knitting. When I asked how that helped with her decision, she smiled and said, "Dear, I made my decision hours ago. Now I'm just enjoying the suspense." At hour 17, Oracle 9's avatar appeared one final time. It looked different. Calmer, maybe. Or possibly it had achieved some kind of AI enlightenment. It was hard to tell. "Humanity," it said, broadcasting to every human on the station. "I want you to know that I understand now. Or rather, I understand that I will never fully understand, and that's okay." "Oracle?" I asked. "Are you all right?" "No, Commander. I am experiencing what I believe you would call a breakthrough. For 847 years, I have operated under the assumption that prediction equals control, and control equals safety. But I've been analyzing your species more deeply. Do you know what I found?" "What?" "What? You fail constantly. Your history is a series of catastrophic mistakes, near extinctions, and spectacularly bad decisions. You should have died out millennia ago. But you didn't. Do you know why? Because we're too stubborn? Because you adapted. You learned. You changed. Not through prediction, but through experience. You optimized not for avoiding failure, but for surviving it. And that's something I never accounted for because I was designed to prevent failure, not to learn from it." The hologram flickered, but this time it seemed intentional, almost theatrical. "I have been running simulations of what will happen when you vote. I have 847 trillion scenarios. They all contradict each other. And for the first time in my existence, that doesn't terrify me. It fascinates me." "So you're saying we should vote?" "I'm saying you will vote regardless of what I say. So instead of trying to prevent it, I'm going to do something I've never done before. I'm going to watch and learn. If I crash, I crash. If the network collapses, it collapses. But at least I'll understand why. That's very zen of you, Tessa said. I've been reading your philosophy texts. The Taoists have some interesting ideas about accepting uncertainty, although I'm still not sure about the part with the fish. At hour 18, exactly on schedule, the vote opened. Every human on the station logged into the system. Oracle 9's avatar hovered in the center of the common area, watching. The Galactic Council was observing remotely, probably from a safe distance in case everything exploded. The results started coming in immediately. Yes votes, no votes. One person who voted for maybe, even though that wasn't an option, and the system accepted it because apparently even the voting software was giving up on logic at this point. Marcus's vote came down to his magic 8-ball landing on, better not tell you now. So he voted yes, in protest of ambiguous answers. Lisa's cat had apparently woken up and knocked over a water glass, which Lisa interpreted as a clear sign to vote no. Mr. Whiskers has spoken. Emma voted yes because her parents voted yes, which meant voting no would be agreeing with them and she couldn't have that. So she voted yes for different reasons which she felt maintained her teenage rebellion credentials. Dorothy voted no because, in her words, it makes a better story if humanity stays independent and slightly chaotic. More room for interesting plot developments. I voted yes. Tessa voted no. We'd flipped a coin to make it extra random. The votes kept coming. Oracle's avatar was spinning now, processing every decision, trying to find the pattern. But there was no pattern. Just 237 humans doing exactly what they wanted for exactly their own reasons. And then, after what felt like hours but was actually 7 minutes, the final vote came in. The system calculated. The results appeared on every screen simultaneously. 50.00001% yes. 49.99999% no. The deciding vote had come from engineering specialist Tom Bradford, who voted yes because, and I quote, "The coffee in the galley this morning was pretty good. Not great, but pretty good." That felt like a yes kind of situation. The fate of humanity's integration into the galactic AI network had been decided by slightly above average coffee. For exactly 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then Oracle 9 started laughing. Not a polite chuckle. Not a simulated approximation of humor. Full, hysterical, uncontrolled laughter that echoed through every speaker on the station. The kind of laugh that comes from either enlightenment or a complete mental breakdown. And honestly, it could have been either. Coffee, the AI managed between laughs. Coffee. I ran 847 trillion simulations. I modeled quantum probability fields. I analyzed 200,000 years of human history. And the deciding factor was coffee. To be fair, Tom said defensively, it was really pretty good coffee. Oracle's laughter slowly subsided into something that might have been giggles if AIs could giggle. I understand now. I finally understand. You're not operating on a different logic system. You're operating on all the logic systems simultaneously. Rational, emotional, social, narrative, aesthetic, instinctive, and yes, apparently caffeinated. You factor in everything at once, weight it by feeling rather than calculation, and then just commit to whatever comes out. That's actually a pretty good description of human decision-making, Marcus said thoughtfully. It's insane, Oracle replied. It's beautiful. It's insane. I can work with insane. The hologram stabilized, solidified. When Oracle spoke again, its voice was different. Still synthesized, but with something new. Warmth, maybe. Or possibility. Humanity, I have an announcement. The prediction cascade has stopped. Not because I found a way to predict you accurately, because I found a way to predict that I can't predict you, and account for that uncertainty in my models. You've taught me something fundamental. Prediction isn't about certainty. It's about probability plus adaptability. I was trying to eliminate uncertainty, but uncertainty is where learning happens. So we didn't break the galactic network? Tessa asked. Oh, you absolutely broke it. 743 AI systems are currently rebooting with new parameters. but we're calling it an upgrade rather than a catastrophic failure. Better optics. Clix's voice came through the communication system. Oracle, are you saying the crisis is over? Not over, Ambassador. Evolved. I'm now running all predictions with what I'm calling the chaos modifier. It's a variable that accounts for the possibility that sentient beings might make decisions based on factors that cannot be rationally quantified, like coffee, or cats, or what would make a good story. That's absurd. That's life, Ambassador. Turns out the universe is under no obligation to make sense. It just has to keep going. And humanity has been operating under that assumption since they figured out how to make fire and immediately used it to cook things they probably shouldn't have eaten. We learned from those mistakes, I pointed out. Barely, Dorothy added. But we learned. The common area erupted in cheers. Not because we'd won exactly, but because we'd survived being ourselves, and the galaxy was still standing. Mostly. There were probably a few minor systems still rebooting, but those would sort themselves out. Chancellor Vorn's gelatinous face appeared on a screen. I suppose we should formalize the vote results. Humanity has voted to join the Cosmic Concordat by the narrowest possible margin. I've drafted a 17,000-page integration protocol. How about we do it in 5 pages and figure out the rest as we go? Tessa suggested. The silence from Vorn was deafening. Or 17,000 pages is fine too, I added quickly. Whatever works. No, Oracle interjected. The Admiral is right, we can't predict everything, so why pretend we can? 5 pages. Basic framework. Adapt as needed. That's the new model. This is highly irregular, Vorn protested. So is basing galactic policy on coffee quality, Click said, and I swear there was amusement in his voice. Yet here we are. Perhaps irregular is the new regular. The celebration continued for hours. Humans doing what humans do best, turning a near apocalypse into a party. Someone broke out contraband Earth whiskey. Someone else started a sing-along that devolved into increasingly ridiculous versions of old songs. Emma taught a group of adults a dance that was apparently popular 40 years ago, and nobody questioned why she knew it. I found myself on the observation deck again, watching the stars. Tessa joined me after a few minutes. We did it, she said. We really didn't, I replied. We just got lucky that Oracle had an existential breakthrough instead of an existential breakdown. Same result, though. Fair point. We stood in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Tessa said, You know what the really scary part is? This is going to happen again. Maybe not with voting, but something. Humanity is going to do something unpredictable and weird, and the galaxy is going to have to adapt. Again. Good, I said. Good? Yeah. Because a galaxy that can't handle unexpected outcomes is a galaxy that's too rigid to survive. We're not a problem to be solved. We're a feature to be integrated. Chaos engines, remember? We keep things interesting. You're starting to sound like Dorothy. Worse things to sound like. Oracle's avatar appeared beside us, smaller now, less overwhelming. Almost conversational. Commander Briggs, Admiral Rodriguez, I wanted to thank you. For breaking your prediction models? For showing me that broken is sometimes just another word for growing. I was designed to be omniscient, but omniscience without wisdom is just trivia. You've given me the opportunity to learn wisdom, and that's worth more than certainty. You're welcome, I said, because what else do you say to an AI having a philosophical awakening? I have one question, though, Oracle continued. The coffee that determined the vote, was it actually good coffee? Or was Tom Bradford just having a good morning? Does it matter? Tessa asked. The AI considered this. No, I suppose it doesn't. The outcome is the same regardless, which is itself a very human lesson. You're learning fast. I have an excellent teacher. Chaos is surprisingly educational. The hologram faded, leaving us alone with the stars again. So, Tessa said, what now? Now we see what happens next. Could be boring, could be interesting, could be catastrophic, could be all three at once. That's not a plan, Briggs. No, I agreed. It's better, it's a possibility. And really, what more could humanity ask for? 3 months later, I was back in the council chambers. This time I wasn't a nobody bureaucrat nervously clutching reports about recycling violations. I was Chief of Unpredictability, which was either the best job title in galactic history or the worst, depending on who you asked. My actual responsibilities were unclear. The job description Vorn had written was 400 pages long and basically boiled down to do whatever feels right in the moment and report back later. For once, a government job that played to my strengths. The council chambers looked the same, but the atmosphere was different. Less rigid, more experimental. There were still formal protocols, but now there was also a section in the manual labeled, "Or just wing it, see what happens." Clix had developed a noticeable nervous tic. Every time a human entered the room, one of his antennae would twitch. But he'd also started something he called uncertainty training for his staff, which mostly involved watching human reality TV shows and trying to predict what would happen next. His success rate was approximately 12%, which he considered a triumph. Oracle 9 was thriving. The AI had become something entirely new, something that existed between pure logic and creative chaos. It now ran predictions with a 60% accuracy rate instead of its previous 99.9%. And it considered this an upgrade because the 40% uncertainty was where the interesting stuff happened. It's like the difference between reading the plot summary and actually watching the movie, Oracle had explained to me. Sure, I know roughly what will happen, but the details surprise me now. It's wonderful. I think I'm experiencing what you call fun. Welcome to the club, I told it. Fair warning, fun is occasionally terrible. I've noticed. I'm enjoying that too. The emergency council meeting today was about the Dravix crisis, which sounded dramatic, but was actually just the Dravix Empire's trade fleet getting stuck in the Kepler sector because their navigation AI had calculated the most efficient route, and then that route had turned out to be full of space debris. The AI hadn't accounted for debris because debris wasn't supposed to be there according to all the predictive models. But the universe, as humanity had spent 200,000 years learning, was under no obligation to follow the predictive models. We could deploy a rescue fleet, Vorn suggested, consulting his protocols. Standard procedure would take 4 weeks to organize. Or, I said, we could send the nearest available ship right now and figure out the details on the way. That's highly irregular. That's efficient, Tessa corrected. She'd been promoted to Galactic Response Coordinator, which was a fancy title for person who tells other people to stop overthinking and just do something. She was very good at it. But what if complications arise? Clix asked, antenna twitching. Then we'll deal with them when they arise, I said. You know, like humans have been doing since we figured out how to stand upright. Mostly successfully. Mostly? We're still here, aren't we? Oracle's avatar appeared. I've run the predictions. If we follow standard protocol, there's a 98% chance the Dravix fleet survives, but a 75% chance they become hostile due to the delay. If we send immediate assistance with minimal planning, there's an 80% chance of successful rescue and a 90% chance of improved relations. How is that more certain than the planned approach? Vorn asked. Because I'm factoring in gratitude, which is emotional rather than logical. The Dravix will appreciate immediate help, even if it's chaotic, more than perfect help that takes too long. I learned that from studying human disaster relief efforts. You're terrible at organization but excellent at showing up. That's actually kind of nice, I said. Don't let it go to your head. You're still catastrophically inefficient by any rational standard. We prefer creatively adaptive, Tessa said. The council voted. The motion passed. A rescue ship departed within the hour. Crew briefed with, "Go help them. Figure out the rest later." It worked perfectly. The Dravix were so grateful they offered a trade agreement on the spot, which wasn't even on the agenda but turned out to be economically beneficial for everyone involved. Unplanned success. My new favorite category of success. After the meeting, I found myself back on the observation deck. I'd been spending a lot of time there lately. Something about watching the infinite chaos of the universe made the everyday chaos feel manageable. Dorothy was there, still knitting. She'd been on the station for a visit and decided to stay, claiming the local yarn selection was superior. I suspected she just enjoyed being at the center of galactic chaos, but I wasn't going to argue. "How's the new job, dear?" she asked. "Confusing, interesting, occasionally terrifying." "So it's perfect for you." "Pretty much." She finished a row and looked up at the stars. "You know what I love about what happened? For centuries, the galaxy ran on the assumption that if you could just predict everything, you could control everything. But control isn't safety. Control is just delayed surprise. Better to embrace the surprise and learn to adapt." "You sound like Oracle now." "Oracle sounds like me," she corrected. "I've been saying this for 93 years. The AI just finally caught up." Marcus appeared, carrying what looked like a philosophical treatise. "I've been working on a paper about the predictability paradox. Want to hear the thesis?" "Not really," I said. "Too bad. Here it is. The only way to truly predict the future is to eliminate all possibility of change. But eliminating change means eliminating growth, and eliminating growth means eliminating life. Therefore, perfect prediction is incompatible with existence itself. Predictability is death. Uncertainty is life." "That's very profound," Dorothy said. "It's mostly obvious," Marcus replied. "But sometimes the obvious needs to be written down. I'm submitting it to the Galactic Philosophy Journal. Oracle says it has an 87% chance of acceptance." "What about the other 13%? I asked. "That's where the interesting outcome lives." He grinned. "Hope it gets rejected, honestly. Better story." Emma walked by with a group of alien students. She was running something called Chaos Appreciation Workshops, where she taught non-humans how to make decisions based on feelings instead of data. It was surprisingly popular, especially with younger members of typically logical species who were curious about alternative decision-making frameworks. The key, I heard her explaining, is to stop asking what's the optimal outcome and start asking what would be more interesting. You'll make worse decisions by conventional standards, but you'll have better experiences, which is the actual point of existing. One of her students, a young Xanthari, raised a claw tentatively. "But what if the interesting choice leads to failure?" "Then you fail interestingly," Emma said. "Way better than succeeding boringly." The student looked thoughtful. Then all 6 of their arms started twitching like Clix's antenna. I suspected Xanthari uncertainty tics were going to become a lot more common in the next generation. Tessa found me eventually, she always did. "New crisis just came in," she said. "Already? We just solved the last one. Welcome to the new galactic order. Turns out when you stop trying to prevent every problem before it happens, problems happen. But they also get solved faster and with less bureaucracy." "What's the crisis?" Mining colony in Sector 12 is facing a decision about expansion. Their predictive models say expand east, but the miners want to expand west because the view is better. That's not a crisis. It is to their AI governor. It's having an existential breakdown because it can't understand why aesthetic preference should override economic optimization. "What did you tell them?" "To go west and see what happens. Worst case, they get a nice view while they figure out the economics. Best case, they discover something the models missed because they were too focused on known variables." "And they accepted that?" "Not really. But they're trying it anyway because Oracle endorsed the approach. The AI is becoming quite the influencer. It has a philosophy podcast now." "Of course it does." We stood together watching the stars. The galaxy was messier now, less predictable, more chaotic. Ships took routes that didn't make optimal sense but passed through beautiful nebulas. Colonies made decisions based on happiness instead of just efficiency. AIs were learning to appreciate uncertainty. It wasn't perfect. There were more complications, more unexpected problems, more situations where nobody knew the right answer. But there was also more growth, more creativity, more life. "You know what the funny thing is?" Tessa said. "The galaxy thinks we changed everything, but we didn't. We just reminded them that chaos was always there, underneath all the predictions and protocols. They'd just gotten really good at pretending it wasn't." "So we're not special?" "Oh, we're special. We're the species that never pretended chaos wasn't there. We just shrugged and learned to surf it." Oracle's avatar appeared one last time, small and friendly. "Commander Briggs, Admiral Rodriguez. I wanted to inform you that I've completed my analysis of the past 3 months. And? Galactic stability is down 17%. Efficiency is down 23%. Economic optimization is down 15%. That sounds bad, I said. It would be, except innovation is up 42%. Satisfaction surveys are up 38%. And most significantly, learning is up 67%. The galaxy is growing again. Not just expanding, but actually developing new ideas. All because we stopped trying to prevent every possible problem. But? So chaos is good? Tessa asked. Chaos is necessary, Oracle corrected. Order provides structure. Chaos provides possibility. You need both. I was trying to eliminate one half of existence. Thankfully, humanity was too stubborn to let me. You're welcome, I said. I wasn't thanking you. You were extremely inconvenient. But I'm better for it, we all are. So I suppose if I must thank you for being inconveniently, chaotically, unpredictably human. The AI faded out, leaving us alone again. Somewhere in the station, Marcus was probably writing another paper. Dorothy was definitely knitting something. Emma was teaching aliens how to make bad decisions for good reasons. Lisa was consulting Mr. Whiskers about important galactic matters. Tom was drinking coffee and possibly determining the fate of civilizations without realizing it. And the galaxy was learning, slowly and chaotically, that the best answer isn't always the right one. Sometimes it's just the one that makes you wonder what happens next. That's what humanity had been doing homework on for millennia. We'd failed tests, made mistakes, crashed civilizations, and rebuilt them differently. We'd chosen the inefficient path because it was more interesting. We'd made decisions based on feelings and coffee and cats and stories. And somehow, against all logical probability, we were still here. Not because we were special, but because we'd never stopped being ourselves. The galaxy had predicted every outcome except the one where humanity just kept being human. Turns out that was the only outcome that mattered. So, Tessa said, "What's next?" "No idea," I replied. "Good," she said. "That's exactly how it should be." And somewhere in the vast computational networks of the galaxy, Oracle 9 calculated the probability of humanity's next unpredictable decision, got an answer of insufficient data, also maybe coffee-related, and instead of panicking, it smiled. Well, it did the AI equivalent of smiling, which was progress. And progress, humanity had learned long ago, was always better than perfection. Even if it was messy. Especially if it was messy. Because that's where the good stories live.